Hi everyone, my name is Janelle Migan. Welcome to my channel. I'm a nurse medical writer for the last 6 years, and I help burnt out nurses or healthcare workers find remote work as medical writers. Today, we're going to be going over the top 7 mistakes nurses make when transitioning to writing. This is going to really help you guys make the transition really smoothly. Like, subscribe, and follow if you guys want more information on medical writing. I also offer a really comprehensive course at willowbarkwriting.com. Let's get into it. So making the transition from healthcare worker to a medical writer is scary for a lot of people. I hear it all the time from the students that I coach. I offer coaching services to really help people ease into that. But the good news is that if I can do it, you can do that. You will hear me say that over and over again. I'm not anyone special. I'm not smarter than anyone. I'm not more talented than anyone. I'm just someone that figured it out, and I can help you figure it out too. So let's go over the top mistakes. The first one that I hear all the time, and that I did too as a new baby medical writer, is obsessing over their website. I'll just say it. No one cares about your website. Not a single person besides you cares about your website, which is kind of heartbreaking. I understand. When I figured that out, I was pretty upset. So I'm saying this to save you a lot of time and energy. Don't even bother. There are so many other medical writers who have become profoundly successful without a website. You don't actually need one. My website barely gets me any leads in the 6 years that I've been a medical writer. My website is for burnt out nurses, not for editors. And over the 6 years, it's not worth the $35 that I have paid every single month to keep it afloat. Saying the amount of editors that have found me has not equaled out to $35 a month. So don't even get it started. There's also a lot of anxiety with that because you have to pick your brand colors, you have to get a graphic designer, you have to write it yourself, you have to figure out who your target audience is, which are all things that you can do, but then you have to figure out how to use this super daunting website. And it's a lot of reasons that nurse writers don't even start because it's such a big hiccup for so many people. We do go over personal branding in my course, and it is something that you should understand when you're going into LinkedIn, which is another workshop that I cover. But you don't need a website to find clients. I think a lot of nurses see that other people have websites and they think that they aren't professional if they don't have a website. But I think out of all the editors I've had, only one has mentioned my website to me. I don't think any of my editors have looked at my website. What my editor wants is that they want to know that I can write, not that I can build a website or that I have built a website or that I'm professional in that way, because my website has nothing to do with how I can write or the deadlines that I can meet or anything like that. So if you're super concerned about your website, just don't do it. You don't have to do it. And if you're like me and anxious about setting it up, just write it off your task list. You can put it aside for later if you think it's really something that you want, but I'm telling you right now, it's not essential. You can run a completely successful business without one. The second top mistake that nurses make as new medical writers is hanging around on Upwork because they don't know where to find work. Guys, please, oh please, get off of Upwork. For the life of everything. Nothing good comes from Upwork. There's a ton of scammers. There are super low paying jobs on there. It works for some people, and some people have found jobs from there, but the amount of people that are discouraged, that tell me that there's no jobs on there, all of my students can't get jobs on there. And to be frank, I couldn't get a job on there when I looked a couple of years ago and I had a lot of experience. The problem with Upwork is that you can get underbid by people, and there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people on that platform. So you can, the price for that job, put in a bid, and then someone can come and bid lower than you, and the job can go to that person. The second problem with Upwork, and this also includes Fiverr too. Fiverr is the same as Upwork. There's a token system. So you can only apply to so many jobs per month based on the token. So one job might cost 10 tokens. And so you apply and then you get underbid and then you lose those tokens and you can't apply again without paying for more tokens or waiting 30 days. Now, there have been people that have found success on that platform, but it's far and few in between. And I think it does more harm than good at first when you're really trying to build your confidence as a nurse writer. I just don't think it's worth the hassle. And there's a big possibility that you're just working with scammers on there. New medical writers don't have the capacity to figure out what a scammer is because they're just so excited to get their work and they're not really understanding how to vet them, which is one thing that we really cover in depth in my course for medical writers at willowbarkwriting.com. So now the third big mistake I see with new medical writers is that deep imposter syndrome that so many of them have. Every new nurse writer that I coach has come to me with imposter syndrome. It's wild. It's particularly wild because editors and medical teams are so excited to work with nurse writers because we're field experts. No one else has the clinical background that we have. No one else can get, and no one else can take from us. That's something that we have worked so hard for, and that really sets us apart in our role. So I've worked with people before who have told me how valuable I am because I'm the only person on that team that has actually lived those scenarios. Everyone else just can research it and do their best to critically think about it, but I'm the only one who's been there, administered that medication, and has talked to those patients. So we are profoundly useful in those scenarios. So it's so crazy to hear from nurse writers that they're not enough, and then to talk to the editorial team and hear that they're so excited to have us on there. So not only do you not have to worry about imposter syndrome, you actually have something to be really proud of. Nurses in general get really down on themselves because we're not prescribers. And instead of focusing on what we aren't, I think we should really start focusing on what we are. Incredible healthcare workers and valuable writers to any team. So the fourth top mistake I see with new writers are quitting their day jobs. I think this is a huge one. Say it with me. Do not quit your day job, especially to prove a point to someone else that you're successful and a real writer. Just like there are no such things as real nurses, there's no such thing as a real writer. If you're getting published, if you're making money, then you're successful. Successful means different things to different people. And just because that you're staying at the bedside in any role that is best for you, your finances, and your family does not make you unsuccessful or successful. And don't let anyone else tell you differently. It's that same paradigm of the real nurse. The real nurse works in a critically acute hospital. If you have a practicing RN license, you're a real nurse. This gatekeeping stuff is so pervasive in our industry, and it does not have to be pervasively held over to medical writing. I still have my foot in the clinical world, and I'll tell you right now, I'm absolutely successful as a writer. I have worked with top names in one of the top pharmaceutical companies in the world. So why do I still have ties to the clinical world? Because I like it. There's nothing more to it than that. Not everything has to be black and white. This was the best decision for me, my mental health, and what I wanted to do. When I began to supplement my income with medical writing, the weight of nursing lifted off my shoulders. I was no longer relying on a facility for my income. So I could change facilities, I could reduce my hours, I could find my passion project in nursing that I never could before. So just because I'm writing does not mean that I have completely given up on the clinical world. And also, I have actually gotten jobs that require that I'm still a practicing nurse at the bedside, and they won't take me unless I have that. Now, these are higher level jobs. These aren't like your blogs or anything else. So some lower level nurse writers might not even realize that this is a requirement, but they've actually done a background check to make sure that my license is active and that I'm actively practicing. So to stay on top of your field, you might actually want to stay in some capacity. But again, that's a personal decision for you and you alone. So don't feel like you have to quit right away. The second reason that you might want to stay at the bedside while you're transitioning to become a nurse writer is because you get to experiment a lot. You get to take on jobs as a nurse writer that are interesting to you, that might be lower paying, that you have a lot of editorial advantage. Being able to supplement with the occasional per diem clinical job makes possible. So again, don't quit immediately because you have a point to prove. Quit when you want to because it's something that you feel in your heart of hearts and that you're financially capable of. And don't let anyone bully you one way or the other. The fifth mistake that I see new nurse medical writers making, and that I actually did too when I first started, is being competitive over being collaborative with their peers. There's more than enough writing to go around. Same thing with the nurses at the bedside. Writing is very sought after. We are a worldwide industry and we aren't limited by geographical borders, and we're also remote. So we can find clients anywhere, and we do. I've had clients all over the world. So it makes no sense for me to be closed off and competitive with my peers if I can find work and I can actually recommend them to work. But it does make sense for me to collaborate with them, because when you're owning your own business and you're a remote worker, you suddenly don't have the coworkers that you did at the bedside. So there's no one to really bounce ideas off of or ask advice to or anything like that. It gets a lot harder. So if you can build these really close relationships with your peers, you're opening doors. And I've bounced ideas off people before. So what I do, if I'm not interested in a job, I'll say no, thank you, and I'll recommend a peer. And they'll actually do the same thing for me. And that's why I've gotten jobs over and over again. And then in the future, I can go to them with questions. They can ask me questions, and we can just bounce off ideas, and they become my coworker. So you don't have to close yourself up and alienate yourself from other nurse writers. Connect with them instead. Offer them help when you can. And they might just offer you help in return, which is huge. The sixth top mistake I see with new nurse medical writers is wanting to write about their bedside experience. I'm just going to be honest, you guys. No one cares about your bedside experience besides you. I get the same question over and over again from the people taking my writing course at willowbarkwriting.com. And they want to write about the crazy stories they've seen, the trials and tribulations as a nurse, and, how hard it is to be a nurse. And there really isn't a market for it. Are those stories wild? Yeah, of course they are. But every nurse has 100 wild stories. You are not special, and your stories are not special. And that might sound harsh, but you have to think about who your market is. Who wants to read that? Who's going to buy that? Who is going to front that? And what type of deliverable is that going to be? If you can't come up with the market, if you can't answer those questions, it's not a viable market. I understand why a lot of nurses want to talk about your bedside experience. No one gets nurses like other nurses. So that means we don't really get to talk about all of the crazy stuff we see. So we bottle it up instead. But just because it's bottled up doesn't mean it needs to come out in the form of a blog or a book or anything like that. My recommendation is go to a therapist instead if you really want to talk about your crazy stories, because nurse writing is really not the place for it. Out of all the clients, I've never had one interested in that part of me. So if you think that being a nurse writer is talking about what I did at the bedside, it absolutely is not. That's something that a lot of nurses have to overcome, that their own personal trauma is not a viable market, and that they have to really deal with that personal trauma in another capacity and then get into medical writing. That's a huge one. I get so many people that ask me that all the time. The seventh top mistake I see with new nurse medical writers is not taking a medical writing course if they need it. I'll, again, always be brutally honest with you. You don't need a medical writing course to be in the field, but a lot of people do better and they progress faster with the support. I know I could have gotten a lot farther along, a lot faster if I had someone to be there to help me or to tell me where to find clients, how to put together a portfolio, what my editors wanted to see and what they didn't want to see, and how I was supposed to write, research, and edit. Quick checklists, that type of thing, what I should be doing, what mistakes to look out for. I found my way all by myself, and I have been successful. But like I said, I could have been making better money way sooner if I had someone to show me what they had already learned. If you don't know what to do and you want to progress faster, take a course. I offer the Writing Academy for anyone looking to make the transition from a healthcare worker to a nurse. It comes with workshops, coaching, and the actual academy itself. We go over in LinkedIn, social media, personal branding, how to write, how to edit, how to research, and all of that in one convenient place. So if you're unsure, that's a great place to start. It's at willowbarkwriting.com. So now that you know the top 7 mistakes nurse writers make as they transition to writer, you'll know what to avoid. As a writing and business coach, I help nurses leave the bedside and find remote work as writers. So I'm really used to these mistakes, and I've also lived this. If you're interested in remote work, if you're interested in learning more about it, like, subscribe, and follow. And you can also find out more information at willowbarkwriting.com. See you next time.